Hi everyone, Monica Bodierski here. How are you all doing? As you know, I'm an artist and an author, bit of an advisor and a mystic. I do read tarot cards and have for many, many years, far too many decades to really say out loud. But I'm also a chartered herbalist, and this is something I started fairly recent. And by recent, I mean receiving that designation. You know, I started about 20 years ago with my studies, and I've always been a plant person, being someone who identifies as a witch. The earth, the smell of the earth, plants, herbs, it's not just about gardening, it's not just about the wonderful outdoors and connecting to earth. You know, it's about the spirit of the plants. It's about the spirit of all things. And you know, I've always had dreams about plants and they become personified. I think so that I can understand the language a little bit better. I once had a great dream about um, a woman at a party I'd met, I was talking to, and she was very large. And by large, I mean she was probably about 6 feet tall in her heels, and she was substantial and she had dark hair and she had a sweater on and a skirt. And I think they were the high heels, I think they were boots. You know, very stylish, very stylish. But she struck me as incredibly matter of fact. And we started to talk. And she was not what I would say really blunt, but she was really thorough and maybe a little straightforward. We all have different ideas of what blunt actually is. Our own boundaries and comfort zone for people being very direct with us, I suppose. And what I found really interesting was some of the things she said. She told me about cleansing and how important it was. And, you know, she seemed very grounded and down to earth, genuinely, even though she was dressed sort of fancy, but not in a phony way. You know what I mean? It still seemed like a comfortable sweater, even though it was dressy enough. And I found her very fascinating. I found her talking about cleansing and systems, and I started to think maybe she was a nurse or a doctor, a spirit, of course, because I do dream of spirits all the time in my dreams. I'm speaking to spirit. And so I wondered, I don't know if I asked her what her profession was or where the conversation went from there, but I remember her looking at me when I asked what her name was. I do believe she said Burdock. And I went, what an interesting name, Dr. Burdock, and or, you know, and it was a conversation that continued and I learned a great deal. When I woke up, it struck me. It struck me. Oh, that was actually the spirit of Burdock, and the spirit just shared an incredible amount of information with me. And I just felt it to my core. I looked up a lot of that information, and yes, it was accurate. And it got me thinking, and this happened such a long time ago. It must have been over 30 years ago. And it got me thinking about um, whether that was a viable way to learn about herbs. And I thought, well, it is a nice way, and I do pick up on their energy, and certainly you can just feel frequently through body sensations or flashes of images if you're very intuitive what those plants are for. But I decided that I would also study herbalism. So I enrolled in the Dominion Herbal College, which is Canada's oldest college for studying herbalism. Unfortunately, right around the time that I enrolled, my mother became terribly, terribly ill, and I ended up taking some time off work, and it wasn't a long time because she deteriorated, her health deteriorated very rapidly over a 7-week period. But I realized that over the months leading up to this, because there were obvious signs that she was ill and needed assistance, that I couldn't keep up with the studies and I dropped out. So, so closely linked to the trauma of her illness and caregiving that I didn't really want to continue my studies for quite a long time, 20 years to be exact, 20 years. And then the pandemic rolled around, and I had been studying herbs on my own for a very long time. But I thought, why not go back and finish what you started? And it's not bad to have that designation. Doesn't mean that I can just sort of prescribe herbs left, right, and center. Well, no, that is for medical doctors. It does mean, however, I can suggest and or recommend, along with seeing Western physicians or alternative modes of healing, certain herbal ideas and teas, tinctures for you to take. So I was very proud of the fact that I received that. And, my interest has never waned or flagged at all, but it certainly was nice to get back in the garden and now have different conversations because I understood the chemical properties along with journeying. So, what I'd like to suggest, you see, I'm waving this mugwort around. This is Artemisia, Artemisia vulgaris, and that is the common name for what is a common Artemisia, and many people here refer to it as a roadside weed. It tends to grow in waste places, and this is just one little clump, okay, that is dried. They can get up to about, I don't know, 10 feet tall, and they spread. If they have the right growing conditions, which is pretty much anywhere, they can spread rapidly. The smell I absolutely adore. Feeling the energy of this plant, whether living or whether dried, is for me very deep and part of my witching practice because witches have used mugwort for all sorts of modes of healing since time began. I should mention Artemisia vulgaris is it is indigenous to where I live here, and it is not an invasive species. It is also endemic to Asia and to Europe and to North America, many parts of the world. This is what we call a very hearty herb. Uh, Teas have been made from mugwort for visions and for in heightening your intuitive prowess and your psychic powers. Anyone who practices witchcraft or Wicca or paganism, whatever you may identify as, you might know that you can put this wonderful dried herb into a little square of cloth, seal it up, and tuck that in between your pillow and your pillowcase at night, sleep on it, and have some very vivid dreams. I think this is where it is helping us with our intuition. It's also a women's herb. It's helped with, uh, very particular reproductive issues. It's a great stomach tonic. It helps with gastritis, inflammation. It is said that you can put this on wounds and it will take stings away and speed healing. There's so many properties to this Artemisia. You may be familiar with other Artemisias that are sage, not salvia, but there is an Artemisia that is black sage, and there are many in the family, including wormwood. This is not wormwood. So, how do I journey? I sit down and I close my eyes and I meditate. And for all of you who know how to meditate, you are putting yourself into a very relaxed state of mind. You can call in your spirit guides or ancestors. You can be in a semi-darkened room and space. You can just take a lot of really deep breaths and make sure you are in a receptive kind of an uninterrupted zone. and see what images come to you when you talk to and connect to mugwort by holding it, by having a tea. I also have a mugwort ointment. So I would sip the tea, I would hold the mugwort. It's a very tactile thing for me as well, picking up on energy, and also use some of the mugwort ointment. That isn't necessary. We all connect in different ways. Maybe if you sleep on it, you will dream about a particular lady, gentleman, or non-gendered individual being or spirit visiting you and sharing all sorts of interesting and accurate earth wisdom. So give that a try. Journey with a plant. Write down what you've experienced. Keep a journal, keep an ongoing journal, and really connect to the herbs that you're interested in and that you grow. Thank you so much. And don't forget, yes, WITCHfest North is on all month long, and we do have another wonderful presentations. We have so many presentations about connecting to spirit and healing and how to be an all-around witch. So thank you so very much for watching this video. Don't forget, I always forget to tell you, click that subscribe button. If you're enjoying it, please comment below and tell me about some of your experiences that you've had with herbs and spiritual experiences, as well as your own herbalism studies. Thank you so much for being here. Have yourselves a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.